Good evening. Welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't Africans, the Think Show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so called African American or Black didn't find themselves. I don't know what that reverb was, but hopefully it's done.
Sounds fine to me.
You don't hear that reverb coming back?
No.
Oh, you know what? You know what? That's what it was. Okay, guys, sorry about that. Welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't Africans, the Think Show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so called African American or Black didn't find their way to America in the trunk of a ship, Carnival cruise ship. So I guess all the mayhem is over. One thing, we ain't got to hear that chick's voice no more. That's the cool part. But some interesting things happened today. So people had just lost their minds, not knowing what they do. It's really a shame when you have people 40, 50 years old, don't know what electoral college means, don't know anything about nothing, and just follow what the TV tells them. Just believe whatever comes out of the TV. And it's not sad. It's hilarious. So that's why I take every time to mock these clowns. Because come on, y'all, damn. I mean, you have 18, 19-year-old kids understand this shit. And grown people don't. So we're going to be joined by a sister tonight that made a kick-ass comment today. And she's going to read it and give her thoughts about what she was saying. And then hopefully, we can get everybody in the chat to talk about it too. I'm texting the chat group into the chat box right now. So please join us. I'd like to hear what you're thinking, because y'all be coming with some funny shit anyway. So, please join us. So you ready to start that up, Lise?
Yeah, let me get you going on that.
So check this out, y'all. This is how people are acting, are tripping. Because they think this one man runs their life.
No! Why? Why? Do you really hate me that bad?
Guys, we literally don't even have to panic. We literally don't have to freak out right now. We don't even have to fucking, we don't have to freak out. We don't have to freak out because it's not even real. Because, bitch, recount the votes!
I can't believe Trump's actually gonna win this fucking thing! Oh, Jesus Christ! I'm so pissed off! Fuck! God damn it!
So what's all that? What does all that mean? You think a person that you never met, never ever is going to meet, is going to control your life like that? And the sister who was the first one on, damn. This how we roll? And the sister who was So the sister who made the post today is joining us now. And if we can get her to read her post so you guys can see what it was like, because it was cool. I mean, it's just simple, Wasn't cussing nobody out. Should have, but didn't. It's cool. And like to get her thoughts and also the audience thoughts on this whole thing because I seen some Negroes today. Like, damn, y'all really? They really going for the media hype. So, Miss Karen Coy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and thank you so much for inviting me on. This was like the last thing I was expecting after a very long day of seventh grade ELA.
Oh, no, it's cool. No, because I see you've been in the group for a while, and your thoughts and what you write and say, what everybody write and say is important. But I
Yes,
think you use yours to share with everybody, and that's cool.
yes, thank you so much. So
So you
I don't
wrote,
think I'll lose connection with you if I go back because my laptop, I'm not getting internet connection on it for some reason. So I'll have to
okay,
open up the Facebook page and just read it because I can't recall, right offhand.
okay. Could you do that?
Yeah, let me try that real quick.
Okay.
Well, I think we can do it.
Yeah, you still on? You still here?
Okay, I'm not tech savvy.
Oh, it's cool. Neither am
Let's
I. But check out what the sister said.
Let me know
And
when you're.
Karen, if you can share that text to the group, so other people can read it, but also read the comments or what other people were saying because
Okay.
the shit was wild.
So
I'm gonna put it up.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. So I wrote, I usually say we, but I'm good. So some of you need to do a deep dive into your genealogy and capture the warrior spirit of your ancestors. And if none of them were warriors, you be the first. It doesn't matter who is governing this nation, who is governing you. This is the question that each of us has to face every day when we look in the mirror. Stand tall in your homes and in your conversations around your children. No matter who was elected, these children have to know that you're solid. Pray and stop worrying, period. Then govern yourself and your household, period. So many children came to school today filled with anxiety and fear that very likely came from their homes. Assure that they are going to be fine. We come from people that have been. So I just wrote it because I was aggravated. I was aggravated with this sense of fear that was like overtaking the day, right? Some of the comments, some of the young kids made, and these are kids that are like from 11 to 13 years old. And so some of their comments said to me that they were around adults who were probably filled with some anxiety over which way this election was going to go. I never really fell into that. I had my concerns naturally, like we all should be concerned about things and people's thoughts and policies and, all that sort of stuff, right? But you exercise your right to vote if that's your thing. And then whatever happens, life goes on. So I just don't get caught up into those political traps where I'm like more concerned about politics in DC than I am about what's going on my block or what's going on in my community or what's going on with my family, right? So I just can't get into that over worrying, right? Because for me, it's like you do what you can do, right? So why get caught up in the fear and the complaining and all of that? But what are you doing? That's always my thing. What are you doing, right? And if we get more involved in different things, you know, you can only control what you can control. I think the thing I've been telling my students is you have to be more concerned with how you govern yourself, right? No matter who's governing the nation, is how you govern yourself. That's what you have control over. Like master yourself, and you don't have anything else to riddle you with fear to that extent, right? Knowing who you are and knowing how to move forward. So some people make comments like, asking me to make it public. One lady, and out of respect for her, I won't read her whole comment, but she was just, saying that she's a middle-aged white woman and she's terrified for our nation, um, and doesn't know where my optimism comes from. She says, but I sure envy it. And so, I appreciate her comment. And I'm always going to lean on the side of optimism. And, I've gotten this way as, because I'm so in touch with my ancestry and who I am. And I know where I come from. And I know the people that I come from, and I come from a warrior tribe. So I embody that spirit in me, knowing what they went through, which much tougher, much, much tougher than what's going on today, right? So if they made it through what they were facing, you know, um, like this is nothing to me. Like this doesn't faze me whatsoever. Um, and I'm
I
not saying it's because I don't know what's going on, but because, I got to get up and go to work tomorrow, you know?
right.
So,
So let me ask you this,
sure.
because this is what I'm starting to see. You said the children were around 12, 13. So what's that, like sixth, seventh grade?
7th grade, yes.
What are they like now compared to when you were in the seventh grade?
Oh, well, I'm old school, right? I'll be 55 in a couple of weeks. So I was their age over 40 years ago. Um, Respect is lacking where, we didn't talk back to adults.
Right.
These kids have a false sense of entitlement that they feel like when they're given an instruction that they still have that sense of urgency to continue to express themselves.
Right.
Like back in the day when we were told by an adult to sit down and be quiet, you didn't question it, right?
Right.
So how people raise their kids is different today. Um, we had the fear of our parents finding out that we did anything that was disrespectful, or out of line, right? We had boundaries. And so even though these kids are very intelligent, they're very enlightened, um, their focus and their uh, what's the right word? Uh, their desire, and not all of them, but you always get that handful, right? That gives you your biggest challenge in terms of behaviors, right? It's like when they come to school, like we're interrupting their socializing because they're so over inundated with social media and TikTok and you know doing their thing that they forget the sacrifices that were made for them to be in a position that they're in now, right? So they don't understand or have a sense of urgency. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them don't have a sense of urgency when it comes to doing their work and getting their work done. You know, so it's like they've been coddled too much. That's the word. They've been coddled too much. Like the bar has been set so low. And I don't come from that kind of background, and I've never set the bar low or not have a very high expectation of my kids. So I just can't get with this new parenting, I guess. Like where maybe a lot of parents, not all, but maybe a lot of parents are just trying to be their children's friends, and then that
So
lack
when,
of respect that's
so
not there.
so when you say not all, I understand that it's not all, it's not everybody.
Yeah.
What percentage would you say it is? So if out of 10 kids, what percentage of that would you say is like what
Oh,
you're talking about now?
at least 3 or 4.
At least what?
At least 3 or 4. So like 30 to 40%. I won't say it's quite 50%,
Uh,
but definitely between 30 and 40%.
so that's just in your classroom in California,
No, I'm in Jersey.
Jersey. So
Yeah, I
how
wish.
does that spread? What do you think that looks like throughout the state or the county?
I think it's different from community to community. Um, I don't believe like some of the foolishness that's going on where I'm at goes on everywhere. And then I know it's a lot worse in other places. So
Right.
my always thing is pushing for excellence, right? And for me, that comes from them having a solid foundation of knowing, like where they are in the world, right? And what's really out there and what the competition is like. Because even in academia, there's competition. Like I work at a small charter school. So these kids want to get into specialized high schools. And they're not just applying with kids that are at our school. They're applying with kids throughout the city, throughout the county, And when you go beyond that, like college, what is that like trying to get into the college that you want to get into and not having to pay full price for it, right? So just trying to prepare them, not just to get through the semester, but trying to get through to college, right? And to know, like really just trying to prepare them, not sugarcoating things, not being too gentle with them, right? But just like tough love, and letting them know, like, I expect certain things of you. You should expect certain things of yourself. You need to know history. You need to know how things work in this country, right? Because what disappoints me most, even with adults, is like the shock and the surprise that the election went the way it did. Like, are you serious? Like, why are we tripping? Like,
Right.
he isn't, you know, the what 46th white male president,
Right.
right? Without getting into all the semantics about who was actually not so white, right? So it's
Right.
like, where's the shot coming from? Like, knock it off already. Like, some people act like they don't know where we're at and know the history of this place, right? So
Th-
that
But doesn't that seem more like they're being uh, puppeted by the
oh,
TV?
for sure. Are you getting yourself all worked up? You watching too much TV when I don't know what's streaming on different people's, timelines, but clearly it's a lot of fear mongering going on. Because I'm like, where's the spirit of fear coming from? That's why I mentioned the
Right.
whole warrior thing, right? Because I don't come from, and I'm not even talking about like the ancestors, like going back to like way back in Virginia, right? Before it was Virginia. I'm not even talking about that, but just like my parents and my grandparents and my great grandparents, these people like were gutsy,
Right.
and they did their thing regardless of where they was at or what time period it was. Like one of my grandfathers, my second great grandfather, he lived in the heart of Virginia, was born in 1831 in Powhatan, Virginia. We have at least two pictures of him taking pictures outside on his land in the heart of Virginia during slavery. So, you had to have some guts to be down there at that time and fully functioning and operating and owning land and taking care of your family. So, I just, it's frustrating, because we're better than this, we're stronger than this, but we're not showing it. And our kids are watching.
So do you think people like Whoopi Goldberg and Van Jones, what do you think their
I'm
part
not,
in all this is?
I'm not sure because I've been staring away from it, so I haven't really tuned in to different people talking about the election, you know.
Oh yeah, I was talking about after the election. Because
I,
somebody sent me something on Van Jones, and I was like, dude, you're really embarrassing yourself.
yeah, like the
This is
little teeny things, the little bits, teeny bits of things. I'm sorry, I'm so sleepy. It's a rough day today. But they're like the
you're
little
gonna
things that I've heard, right? It just it's frustrating because I hate to see our people who have been through, and we know of stories of our families that have been through so much more, right? Where is all of this fear coming from, right? I've heard and I've read in part about what is this thing? The 300-page document, uh 300 plus page, right, on Project 25, right? Come on. I'm not saying these things can't happen. I'm not saying that things aren't in the works to push things backwards, right? But you got to lay down and let something happen. You know,
Right.
you got to lay down and just let something happen. And too many people, and I'm not promoting anything and I'm not suggesting anything, but too many people are so afraid to die that they won't live for something they believe in. They won't stand up for something they believe in. You know, that's why I keep talking about this warrior spirit. You know, like my father would all the time say, don't be no chump. You know, like don't
Right.
be, you got to face whatever you got to face. Because how do we make progress? How do we even ask for land back? Being fearful. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and Lisa knows, and she took us a few years back, right? All the way to the plantation that used to be the reservation that used to be just straight Accomacky land before these Europeans came, right? And we went out there on this ancient uh land and you could just feel it, right? I just
Right.
felt Howard just being there and walking through the same gardens that our ancestors planted that are still growing, things still out there growing. And like you talking about mature landscape, this is ancient landscape, right? Plants bigger than cars, right? And
Right.
so this stuff has stood the test of time because it's deeply rooted. And if we don't get grounded, and then beyond getting grounded, get deeply rooted in that ancestral piece that keeps us solid, you know? Because how do you just fall apart over an election? We're talking about an election. Like, do you know who you are? Like, I
Right.
am descendant of Opachankanov, right? So he was like my 10th great grandfather on one line. Because if you're power 10 on more than one line, right? So he was one of my great grandfathers, Kaka Koweske. These are people that stood up and literally fought back, physically
Right.
fought back, unapologetically. You know what I'm saying? So their spirit lives in me. And that's why genealogy is so important to me. And I push it so much because once you know who you are and what your people have actually gone through, and you don't fall victim to that blanket story that we were enslaved. I know some people that will say things like, oh, because we're not shackled anymore, but some of us, our minds are still shackled. I said, no, I don't come from people that were ever shackled. I may have
Right.
some, but not all. You know, so I stand on the strength of my ancestors, the strength of the strong ones, right? And God bless those that weren't as strong. But those certain people, when I'm looking at my family tree, that resonate in my heart when I'm faced with obstacles, when I'm faced with anxiety, when I'm faced with depression, right? When I'm faced with doubt, I just have to just look over a document or read an archive because they're in there, right?
Right.
and and I'm filled up. So I don't come for punks, you know. I didn't raise any punks. And, this is not the time to be punking out, that's why I said stand strong, like get yourself grounded, get yourself rooted, get your kids strong, like they need to be purpose filled. They need to know where we come from and where we're trying to go. Like it needs to be some family mission statements, right? Or some family core values, not just for schools or jobs, but for families, right? Lay out your core values for your family and say, this is what we stand on and this is how we move, regardless of what's going on outside, regardless of what's going on in this city, regardless of what's going on in this nation or in this world. We're on a mission and we're not oblivious to what's going on, but we're going to stay focused, right? And so that's what fills me up. That's the ancestral spirit that I'm embodied with and that I have to remind myself of constantly. Because I had an issue with anxiety a few years back and probably my whole adult life or before, but I didn't realize that's what it was. But it was to a point one time I had to go to the hospital and they put me on oxygen and the doctor gave me medication because it got physical, right? But then in 2020, when the pandemic hit, I was here and I had to look after my mom at that time, right? Because everything was shut down. And so I started taking this other medication called Fuck It All. And I fuck it all. And I feel since then I found out where I came from because I was able to do a deep dive because I couldn't move around. You know what I mean?
Right.
Put the heels up on the shoe rack and I start putting my moccasins on, regularly, so I'm fully grounded. I feel like I'm unshakable, right? And things that used to make me cry, I'm like, now I'm just like, things that used to upset me, have my hair breaking off. It's just, I'm not there anymore. I can't go back to that because I know who I am now, right? So I think this is what a lot of people lack. They follow that blanket story and they believe certain people when they say, oh, you can't find your ancestors beyond your second great grandparents and all that type of. And then we don't know who we are. And so that we don't know the strength that we come from because we buy into that woe is me, kumbaya, slave stories. And that's not where all of us come from. So if you don't come from warriors, that's why I said be the first. Be the first. If you don't, like they say, if you don't come from a family with money, a family with money should come from you, right? So it's the same thing with the ancestral thing. If you don't come from a family of warriors, then you need to be the first because you need to start raising some warriors because it's real out here. And I don't doubt at all that it's very real out here. But, we got to tighten up. About 4 years. And then what's after that? You know what I'm saying? Nothing is going to change miraculously after these 4 years. So what you going to do? You're going to get some land. You're going to have a compound. You're going to grow your own. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get some land back. Like, what are you going to do? And that has nothing to do with Donald Trump being in the White House.
Nothing.
Facts. That's a fact. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Thank
drained
you.
today. I was so drained today from the energy. Like,
What did they come in saying? Like, how did they come in? What kind of things were they saying and stuff?
Like one of the kids, and I'm not even sure, I wouldn't say their name anyway, but one of the kids, it was one of the girls, had said something about, they're going to make us slaves again.
Wow. But that's what the takeaway these people are having? These young folks. That's a lot of stress.
They're stressed. A lot of them are stressed out unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Now, can you imagine being 12 years old, being that stressed out?
Or thinking about such things
Right.
as that? You know what I mean? Really significant things were going on during the 60s and 70s. But I can tell you, I wasn't engaged in thoughts about it, on this level. Like, I guess it's because the phones are in their hands and they cut so much information crosses their faces, that it's just so different for them.
Yeah.
That's a tremendous amount to be carrying as a child. Really, like that's a lot.
Much. And I don't think my parents sheltered us to the extreme, but we never really knew exactly how much they struggled, because they worked hard and they may have made it look easy. We know it wasn't just laid out, you know what I'm saying? But we didn't have that kind of paralyzing anxiety or fear. Like I have some students that as soon as things don't go their way, or as soon as they're told no, they go talk to the school social worker. And I'm like, no, have a seat.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I get it. I mean, it's bad out there. We have a whole society of this.
Yeah, it's like you sometimes we're doing too much. Like teachers are expected to teach, to parent, to nurture, to be a social worker, to be a psychologist. You got to be a nurse. You got to be a esthetician. Like it's a lot. So I say, like when it comes to these politics, we teach them how government works, right? And about the history of this nation and world history and all these other different things. But some things have to be left to the family, Like we can't drag the whole house to the school, And then you don't know people's culture. You don't know where their parents are from.
Wow.
You don't know their religion. You know what I'm saying? Even at schools, we can cross boundaries sometimes.
I feel like this was engineered, to tell you the truth. I feel like this was engineered to dismantle our values and our culture And I remember, like, I had, dipped into trying to teach these nursing students back in 2008. And, when I learned, or 2006, whatever it was. Anyway, I learned that they dropped the standards for nursing students. And then I realized they dropped the standards for doctors and lawyers, and they just dropped the requirements. Like, if you got 2 grades below, I think it was 85 or whatever, you would fail as a nurse. Like, you would be out of the program, gone. Any 2 grades below 85, you're out. Okay. And then they made it so now it's like 70, and you still don't get out, because they're going to remediate you, teach you. They want to keep the money, and they don't care how many times they have to remediate you into becoming what you become. That's why you got people on Facebook saying, after 12 years, I'm finally, I'm not, this is nuts, right? This is what, but see, when I start dipping my toe in there, and I realized that these people would run to the dean if they didn't like what I was saying. Like when I said that they were dangerous and they weren't ready to graduate. Oh no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But and they were pushing these people through, and they didn't care. And I was like, wow, this is dangerous. What are we creating? And now I see, because you go forward into, now we're almost 20 years out or 18 years out, and you're like, oh, they did that so they could create a pandemic, so that when people go to the hospital and people come on the news, everybody's going to be too dumb to know that's bull crap. Everybody's going to be, and they change the way they teach this new generation. They're taught you can't speak to tell a doctor, you can't question what they're doing. That's practicing medicine. I was educated that I am the advocate for the patient, and I'm gonna come between that doctor by any means necessary, and I will correct them in a heartbeat. I will go above their head. I'll do what I have to do to protect the patient. But when I started working with this new generation of graduates that's been out, these people have been out for 10, 20, they've been out for a while now. And they're like, Miss Lisa, you don't understand, when we're taught that that's breaking, that's actually practicing medicine, and we could go to jail, or we could get this and get our life. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So it's like they designed it so you got dumb doctors who we used to educate, we used to correct, we used to train. So now you got nurses who aren't trained properly, who are not even training the doctors. Nobody's driving this bus. This train is just on. This bus is out of control. No, ain't nobody at the wheel, and that's why they're able to tell us whatever they want on the media. And then they have this thing where they have these commercials where they're telling you what to ask your doctor for. That is so unethical, to actually pimp these medications to people and have you requesting this stuff from your doctor. These things aren't tested. These things don't do what they say they do. They make you feel, oh, well, you need to have this done or you could die. Really? I could? They're scaring people. If you love your child, let them get this shot. What?
Yeah.
You doing that to people? It is evil. It's so wicked. But that was all planned. And I see now, when you talk about these children and how they have this whole mindset where they'll go to the social worker or complain about whatever. You got to be walking on eggshells, and they got all these feelings, and they got all these thoughts, and they really feel like school is an interruption of their life. I mean, these are monsters you have created. When I say you spoil somebody, you create a monster. And what we have done is essentially created monsters. It's been engineered by the permissiveness that has been just injected into our children, because they spend so much time at these schools, and the school systems are engineering the kids to be spoiled rotten. They're not protecting the teachers. They're not backing up the teachers. They're not requiring the standards. You know what I mean? They're not holding kids accountable.
At least 60 college credits to be a substitute. Then, because of the teacher shortage, that is a real crisis all over, right? They lowered it to 30. Woo. And then somebody told me somewhere, and I'm not sure, so this may not be accurate, but somebody told me 15. I said, that's one semester and then maybe one class or one heavy semester of college, and then you're teaching someone.
Hmm.
Because a lot of substitutes in a lot of places are being used as teachers in the place of teachers, not when teachers are but in the place of teachers.
Right. They full on teach.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
Or full on have a class. I don't know about the teaching, but it depends on the person, you know.
Right. Right.
I'm certified. I'm not licensed. I
Mm-hmm.
went for education, but I didn't finish. I didn't complete. So,
Mhm.
so you know, life just got in the way, right? Because I was raising kids
They
myself.
don't have a program where you can your time
Yeah.
doesn't go toward, I know my husband did that. He kind of
Yeah.
whatever. You work a certain amount of years and to take a couple of classes part time. Some kind of my ex-husband. Why did I say it? My ex-husband did that.
Yeah.
Please. Okay. Yeah.
You know you want your boo back.
What a woo. Okay.
But yeah, so you know, I'm just a natural teacher. I believe, right? So so I told, you know, so I go in there and I actually teach, you know.
Yes.
So but how my school is set up, we co-teach. So like for the core subjects like ELA and math, there's 2 teachers to a class.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in there with a licensed teacher, and
Mm-hmm.
we work together. But she actually leads the class, and I do everything to assist. But
Right.
like absent, I'm there. That's
Right.
I'm just there, right? Or I'll go wherever I'm needed in the building, right? But I enjoy it. But a lot of times I'll put together like different programs, or I'll ask to teach something on American history or something like that, you know.
Right.
The administrators, before they do things, they will come and consult with me to make sure that,
Mhm.
lined up well. And then I'll do like special presentations and stuff like that. So
But that was a good suggestion you had about, making your family mission statements and, at least having guidelines to where this is how we conduct ourselves in
mhm.
this family, and this is what we value in this family, and this is how we move. Because, and it's so interesting, but when you have these children, these babies, and you don't realize that all the things that you're molding and building inside of them, whether you vote, don't vote, or vote, whether you celebrate holidays, whether you practice a religion, whether all these things, they take it on, and it follows up to the next generation, or does it?
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's so funny because
Mhm.
my adult children now find it strange that things that I did value and taught them, I no
Mhm.
longer follow. Like I don't I don't believe in the political system. I feel like this is I don't I didn't vote because I'm like, this is bull crap. You know what I mean? So basically they find that strange because I was very active, and I signed petitions, doing stuff, getting people registered to
Mhm.
vote, trying to get the penny tax done, whatever,
Yeah.
that I was involved and I was activated. Now I think maybe some things have changed, even locally. People are so greedy.
But you're
People
still
are
an
so
activist
motivated.
for something
I'm still,
different or
yeah,
personal.
I'm still active. I'm still very much active. But yeah,
Yeah,
and in a different way, in a different nation, right? So
exactly.
and it's also still hard for them to kind of understand that, to fully accept, like, okay, but you used to think that this and that's and thus. I understand, but now because I've done so much research and because I see things now, I see things for what they truly are, and I
Yeah.
cannot support what I understand is so corrupt, and some people, and like we were talking the other day, Carrie and I, about why people don't want to know some of the things that we know, like family, they don't want to know
It's
some heavy, and a lot of people feel like they would get mad, they don't want to be mad, and it's
oh,
just
let
and
me
it,
tell
and it's a lot. My sister is like in her 70s,
you. Mhm.
and she was saying, you know, Lee, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it, Lee. I mean, it's just too much. Like, how do you think of all this stuff? I mean, I need a few weeks to just process this, you know, because when my family, they
I
know
get it.
certain things, you know, but they don't know, like, you know, I have to,
It's
be
a
on
lot.
these increments, right? So they hadn't showed up for, you know, the summits, and they do, you know, and they
Mhm.
support me in what I'm doing. They come to court, but they
It's a
don't
lot.
fully get, you know, when I come out and they say, well, look, this is why I don't believe, girl, this is what really happened, and this is, it blows their mind. Like, you got to give
It's
them time.
mind blowing.
It really is. And
Yeah.
from her standpoint, she was like, how do you carry all that? Because for them,
I ask myself
it's
that.
such a departure, and it's so heavy that they don't, you know, they just can't carry that whole weight of, like, what, everything, I'm a fool. You know, they taught me lies, like I was used, or, you know, I was misled. I believed stuff that was stupid. Like, what, you know, it's a lot for people to deal with. They feel betrayed,
Mhm.
guilty, mad. You know, it's like a lot, and it is. But
Mhm.
tell you, at the other side of it, there's a sense of peace.
It's clarity.
There is. And you don't, and you, there's not anger, because she was like, she was thinking, well, Lee, I mean, people will be in the streets. There will be, there will be people fighting in the streets. All this information. I said, really, Deb? No. I mean, first of all, I said, I know it all, and I don't feel like
Yeah.
I should. I wish maybe we would actually be more activated and more upfront and unified and fighting for this. Yeah, that would be great. But I don't feel like I want to storm the guardhouse, or
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
feel like I need to, I don't hate any people for their color or whatever, their background. That's not that. I
It's
understand
not,
that the key
it's
component,
heavy on the heart.
it's the key component is greed. It really
Yeah.
is a lot of, it's greed. Really, it's
Agree.
greed.
Yeah.
When they say principles or principalities or whatever they want to talk about, this is an energy. It's an evil energy. The greed is overpowering.
Yeah.
And it's not of a thing of color, because everybody's guilty. Because the fact that all these people like DL Hughley and all these people compromise their own people for a check, play the game, the political game, and manipulate people for a check and for a little nothing. Like, we compromise ourselves. So it's not about, you can't get mad at this one or that one, because we're all our own family members do that. Like, I got family members that know that they're like same, connected to the same answers. We got the same, they know their Academic, but they sitting around doing African art and shit, and they're going getting paid and grant money. And, they're not apologetic. Well, they're slightly apologetic about it, but they still doing it. You know what I mean? And, I mean, but see, that's the thing. I mean, these
Because it's so deeply ingrained.
getting these few coins, all money is not good money, and getting
Yeah.
let me tell you something. I understand that now that I'm fighting for us as Academic, one of my cousins in particular is making more money selling African shit than he has ever done in his life. Like, they are commissioning him all up in my face, like, just like they're like they're trying to personally hurt me by commissioning him all over Virginia. And I'm like, no, that's fine. Let Cuz get the money. That's cool. I don't care. I mean, I do care, but but I don't care.
I just feel like I'm charged with sharing what I learned, because what I found when I started doing the genealogy, like really getting heavy into it, was that when I would like share some stuff, because I'm like the youngest child of my parents, and then I'm like one of the youngest grandchildren. So a lot of the elders were gone by the time I could really remember anything, right?
Gotcha.
And so I didn't have the same talks. I didn't go on any of the trips down to Virginia like some of my cousins had gone, right? Or been able to sit at the foot of like my paternal grandfather or my maternal grandfather, right? So they knew some things, but it wasn't really discussed. So when I'm telling them all of this quote unquote Indian stuff, they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah, what? Because by the time I started asking my grandmother questions, she used to tell me to go play.
Right.
Because my friends would say, "Is your grandmother Indian?" And I would look at her and I would think, "Yeah, she looked like one." But then I go to ask her and she tell me to go play. It
Yeah.
wasn't really discussed, because they had came up from the South when, she was like a baby. But
Yes.
surely she knew some things. And then even my mother, right before she passed away, I was telling her some stuff and she was like, "Oh yeah." And I'm like, "What
Yeah.
do you mean? Oh yeah. What do you mean? Oh yeah." Because we didn't fully discuss it. It was always said that, "Oh, we have some Indian in our family." Not that our family was Indian,
Right. Right.
And
Right.
then it
I mean,
wasn't until a cousin just put it on the message board and said, "We're Pamunkey," and I'm not arguing with nobody, right?
right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
someone had told me that years ago, and I
Now-
was like, I thought he had actually called me a poor monkey. And I said, "What you
Oh,
said?" And he said, "No, because it was a Seneca medicine man from the Seneca tribe.
okay. Cool. Cool.
He was
Cool.
visiting the Nanticoke Lenape tribal grounds down in South Jersey, and I went with a
Yeah.
friend. And he said he just got right off the van and just walked right up to me and said, "You're Pamunkey."
Yeah.
And I'm thinking because I'm quote unquote African American, I'm gonna stand out. But when I
Right.
got there, I'm looking around at everybody and they look just like my family.
Right. Right.
No one ever said, anything about me not being Indian. They just kept asking me what tribe I was from.
Right.
And that was
Right.
years and years ago, but it clicked to me that I need to do some more research.
Mm-hmm.
And sure
Absolutely.
enough, years later, it was confirmed through a family member that yes, I am Pamunkey.
Okay. Well, yeah,
So,
Opechancanock, that's for fact. And also that means you're Accomack too, because
yeah, oh, for
Powhatan
sure.
was Accomack. Yeah.
Because
So
a lot of those names you had on the family tree are in my family. So
right,
I know we're connected,
right,
but it's a couple of links still missing to find that common grandparents, right?
right.
But it's definitely there because
I'm actually gonna redo the Confederacy
okay.
because we were the Confederacy. So I'm actually gonna start a Facebook page for it, and I'm gonna start allowing these people that are Pamunkey or whoever Nottaways that ain't Nottaways and can't be added to their nation, to allow them to be part of the Confederacy, the Powhatan Confederacy, and get change their identity and be a member that way. So
Okay.
yeah, so I'm gonna start working on that like this month. Just collecting everybody that has been left off because
Mm-hmm.
you are that, but they ain't trying to, and then you might not want to anyway, because I mean, why would you want to be a part of a nation that actually has asked for recognition from the United States government? Like they're basically slaves to the government. They're under their control. So I mean, that was not a really smart move at all, because a
Yeah.
lot of people actually still have patented land that is still just out there in the periphery that you're not actually working to get back, because now that they're recognized, they're in the bag. They can't do nothing. They're in that trick bag. They're under the control. You're not going to sue the government. You're not going to do anything because you're risking those few little coins that they're throwing your way through grant money.
Yeah, and
So
that's part of my other thing. I got so many things, right? But that's another thing. On both sides of my family are Powhatan and Cherokee, right?
mhm,
And a few other, they have, I think, some Lenape. It's always some extra, right?
mhm,
Especially the further back you keep going, right?
mhm.
So, but like for my grandparents, great, 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 I forget all the way back to maybe fifth. Like nobody was on reservations after my third great grandparents.
Right,
Like
right.
one of my grandmothers left the Mattaponi reservation when she
Mm,
got married. Her name was Sally Wynn, and so
mm,
she left the Mattaponi reservation, and then her and her husband, my third great grandfather John Anderson, her name was Sally Wynn. They lived in Mango Hick, which is right outside the reservation, so it's
mm.
still originally tribal land,
Right.
but not part of the reservation, but it's right outside of it.
Right
And
outside.
still
That's
have
where
family
all their
that
cousins are that they don't let in. They're right
yeah,
outside.
it's
Exactly.
right outside, and
Just
they're still there.
go
A
to the
lot of them are
gas
still
station down
there.
the road and buy that fried chicken from them sisters, and
And they're
and
still right there.
yeah, they're still
So
right there, right?
We'll be
Yep.
having a reunion next year.
Hmm.
I've been on at least one or two calls for the reunion. I kind of fell off somewhere over the summer, but I have to find out what's going on. But they're planning a big family reunion next year.
Oh,
But they didn't
good.
even know about my branch of the family because we went
Oh,
back to like uh quite a few generations to like my second great grandparents. That's with Tasha, right? So she's
mm-hmm.
actually part of the planning committee, Tasha Shea,
Oh, okay.
and another named Joy, her grandmother, and quite who just passed away, God rest her soul. I think it was earlier this year or last year. And so she still has family that are down, right there in Manglehead. So
Mm.
that's where my grandfather was born and his parents, all of that. So it's like we're deeply rooted there, still on tribal land. So it's just
Right.
so undeniable. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
beyond any kind of debate with anybody about who we are
Yeah.
because it doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense at this point. Um,
Hmm.
so it's hard for me to determine in terms of like I've had some cousins who are actually chiefs of different tribes.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them started, the ancestry comes out of Powhatan Confederacy, right? And they
Mm-hmm.
have joined with other tribes, through migration and getting away from these colonists. And some of them have gone as far south as like Mississippi to Neshoba County, right? With
Right.
the
Mm-hmm.
with the Choctaw, right? Like because
Okay.
some of the
Mm-hmm.
Chera, and they kept moving and all that.
Right.
So I'm not trying to go in any direction that my grandparents, great grandparents didn't go because they never went that far south. Maybe their siblings may have branched off and went somewhere, you
Mm-hmm.
know, in those generations back then. But
Right.
but my direct lines stayed in Virginia up until my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Right.
wouldn't be joining anything from Texas or Mississippi, even though they're family, we're blood tied.
Right.
But they come out of Powhatan and Cherokee nations.
Right.
Yeah. But through the Trail of Tears and all that stuff, people have been moved.
Right.
Like my Hicks line, there were Hicks chiefs in Oklahoma, Cherokee chiefs,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So, we're all connected in some sort of way. So it's just too undeniable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too undeniable. Even in like I did do the ancestry test years ago, which is I'm glad that I did it because it connected me to people that knew a whole lot more than what I knew. And so I
Okay.
was able to gather their information to put my story together
Mm-hmm.
and
That's
of
good.
course, confirm everything.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I triple checked anything before I mentioned anything or before I put it on my tree, right?
Right.
Because it would take a lifetime to find the information that I have found over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Without their help, it would have taken me a
Yeah.
lifetime to
People,
get
yeah, people
a
worked on this
fraction of
stuff.
the way.
Yeah, exactly. So it's cool that we can share that.
Oh, absolutely. Even
And
like
that,
when I came down for the summit,
mm-hmm.
you know, I was like kind of like a baby in the knowledge
Right.
of a lot
Right.
of the history, right?
Mhm.
And, like I always tell my students, the only dumb question is the one that's not asked, right?
There you go.
And everybody was going on about the mounds, the mounds, the mounds. And I was like, like I kind of knew what you were talking about, but I didn't know as much, right?
Right. Right.
And it was amazing to me because coming from Jersey,
Mm,
nobody was talking about the mounds in any history class,
right. Right.
even at university level, right?
No.
And I
No.
was a history major.
Right.
That's
No.
why I stopped. I
Yeah.
stopped when we got to America. When we came out of Western Civ,
Mm-hmm.
and we got into American history. I saw what was being excluded, and I said, "No, this is some straight bull. I
Right.
can't. I couldn't go any further. My
Right.
spirit wouldn't let me go any further because I'm not trying to memorize lies. Because I was that college student that was constantly pointing out the discrepancies. you
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
with a
yeah.
lot of things, and kind of challenging a lot of my professors.
Yeah.
Um, but luckily, a lot of them were very honest with me.
That's good.
Some of them didn't appreciate me, but for the most part, they honored my questions and helped me clarify some things. But I said, I can't go any further right here. So I started doing my own research.
Yeah.
Because education, that's what a lot of people have to understand. It doesn't just come from you attaining college credits or,
No.
even high school credits. Because I charge my students in middle school with taking some responsibility for their education because they're
Right.
all walking around with libraries.
Right. Exactly.
You got a library right in your hand. There's no excuse not to know. They'll come up to me and ask me something, and I'll tell them to Google it.
Right.
I had to ask one of the administrators to put an order in for dictionaries for me because we don't even have any dictionaries in the class. How do we have a middle school ELA class with no dictionaries?
Right. Right.
These kids need to know how to go into a dictionary and look up a word.
Right. Exactly.
And get all of the meanings, right? So there's a lot of things that are old school that shouldn't be tossed away.
Like penmanship and
Oh, that's a big thing, right? Especially for people doing this research.
Yes, yeah. They're trying to hide a lot of stuff. It's definitely a thing, yeah, it's crazy what all the stuff that they're trying to hide. But you're right. They don't teach history. They teach that Woodrow Wilson, sanitized, whitewashed, or just, false history. They don't teach us about anything that is significant and real. That's right there for us to know, but now, like you said, there's no excuse. We've got databases, we've got libraries in our phones. But see, what's really funny is like a lot of times doctors even will be walking around, asking questions about basic stuff, about lab work and stuff, and they won't even look at their phone. It's right freaking there. I was in court. The lawyers were going back and forth about, well, I wonder how many, it was a murder. No, it was a rape. It was a, whatever, our case. And they were figuring out his probation time. And they didn't know how long it was. And they were going back and forth. And then they finally started looking in their phones, and it took them forever. So it was like, I mean, people just don't use what they have right there in front of them. And even if it's there, and that's the person that's supposed to be protecting that young woman. How in the world are you going to protect her when you don't know how the law is going to apply to that crazy man when he does qualify for probation? How will she be protected? You should know that before you walk into the courtroom. That should be something that's known.
Do your homework.
We just don't. People just don't know, and we take for granted that everything is true and everybody's all informed. It's not the case. Crazy.
Yeah, and I tell the kids it's academic laziness, right? Because it's like the other day they came in on Monday. The teacher I work with gave them a test. She was absent Friday, but she had told them prior to that there was going to be a test on Monday. And plus, we have a slide deck where they could go on since the first day of school and go back and check anything. So even if they're absent, if they have access to their phone or laptop or whatever at home, they can go on there and know exactly what we covered today. They can get the notes, everything, right? So it's no excuse. And so they had an open book test on Monday, and we're moaning and groaning.
Wow.
Like, oh, I'm sorry that I interrupt, your day by trying to teach you.
Right. That's crazy.
It's an open book test.
Open book, like what in the world? But yeah, I'm telling you.
Yeah, and then they had some of them would actually get up and ask a question about the question.
Right.
Read it again.
Yeah.
And go back and go back to the book, and you can read it because it's open book. It's like everybody just wants the answer right there, like that microwave type thing, right? Like that instant gratification. You don't have to look. You don't have to read too much. So I don't know.
It's crazy. Well, I really appreciate, your post today, your statement, who is governing you. That was very, very powerful because it's true. I feel like people are not governing themselves in so many ways. They're just letting, I don't understand how people with anything, and my friend gets mad at me because he's like, thinks I want to just debate all the time, but it's not that. Whatever it is, I'm gonna look it up. You tell me something or I hear something, I'm gonna look it up, and I'm gonna look it up 4 or 5 different ways because they be lying about the sources.
Yeah.
Be wrong. You know what I mean? So you gotta, like you say, check it like 4 or 5 times. But I want to know. And a lot of times I feel like these people, they listen to the positive things that they are told on whatever media or stream service that they have, and they believe it. They just believe it, and they go for it. They believe it, they accept it, and they don't question it. And it's like, it's very sad because it's like you owe it to yourself to have the full picture. About anything. Like, know all the negative about, you hear the negative about Trump, you hear the negative about her, maybe not. You know what I mean? You may or may not. They both have bad points about them. I feel like it's all crap. You know what I mean? Why would you even see? A lot of it is just getting our energy. There's so much, and the fact that they can cause people anxiety and stress, the anxiety and the stress of the indigenous people being able to elicit that is just as powerful as putting an arrow in our hearts. It is, they get the same strength out of eliciting our emotions of stress and anxiety and angst. When they can do that, it's just as good as killing us as far as the power that they gain.
Yeah.
It's so important also that they get our participation, our consent. Our consent, it doesn't matter what side. Because both sides are working together, even though so many people, like that woman, refuses to believe it. Like, I believe. It's not even a thing to believe, woman. It's a fact. They're all working in unison because they have to. The only way you can keep control of masses of people in a country is for you to work in unison. You think they're really divided? Let me tell you, if these parties were really divided, we would have a war. You know what I mean? It's not real. So the fact that intelligent people, so-called intelligent people, actually believe that these parties are divided, come on now.
Yeah.
Where's the war? If they're really divided, we would be at an all-in-out war, because there's no way. In order to maintain this number of people in this country, you got to keep them somehow herded and controlled. And that's why, we are in effect in a system of slavery, and people don't want to admit it, but you are, because they keep us divided. They control what we think. Why are people getting so upset about your ability to have an abortion when your privacy? You don't have any privacy. They publicizing whether you vote or not and telling you, oh, we're going to tell your friends. And what kind of craziness is that? America, where we got rights to privacy. You going to tell me that you going to tell my family and friends and what? You publicizing what I do? And we're not upset about that, but we're upset about an abortion that odds are you ain't gonna have one if you. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you what abortion does. And I'm not saying this because I am judging abortion, because I've had abortion. So it's not like I'm judging that shit. Okay. I've done it. I've regretted it, what have you, but I'm not judging against people that are for it or whatever. But what I can tell you, that convenience makes people lazy. Well, I can tell you that if you think that there's not an option, that, okay, I was drunk and we didn't do this, and I was feeling it, and you will be, maybe you'll think a little bit more about yourself. See, they're trying to convince everybody that that a woman's health is at stake in having an abortion. But the health begins when you care about what's between your legs. And you protect that. That's
because
where the health begins.
Worry about.
That's where the health begins. Not being careless and not caring about it, and oops, or not caring about your safety. Putting yourself in situations that are sketchy. Leaving your drink out so somebody can put something in it. Taking a drink from anybody. Going to places that you shouldn't be going. Not looking at the situation and getting out of it. Being responsible for your safety. Takes a lot of different things, but that's what a healthy woman does. On so many levels, psychologically, physically, emotionally. We have to know and teach our baby girls to self-protect and respect. When you act like that we're supposed to have built-in outs, oh, well, whatever happens, you can just abortion or whatever, abortion, that's a problem because that's not birth control. And what they don't want to talk about is like my best friend in high school. When I took her to go get an abortion, she's never been able to have kids. What happened to her? It was at a Planned Parenthood. What did they do to her? What really happened to her? She agonized, trying and trying. This is the thing. They're not giving you those stories that abortions cause infertility problems. And a lot of these women that are having problems, it's because of that. They can never have a child or they have difficulties. What about that part of the story? What about that agony? What about that pain? What about the problems it causes when it actually damages your body? Okay? What about the people who can't? And then that could have been their child. You could have given them to somebody who really is a good family. Not that we have a lot of that going on, but there's some of that people want, I think our values are being directed by people that ain't us and people that don't love us and don't care that they put these abortion clinics in our neighborhoods and don't know the history that this whole Planned Parenthood was started by Margaret Sanger and the KKK. They don't know that history.
That's what goes back to knowing the history, right? And to knowing who you are and where you fit into history, right? So it's a lot of lack of knowledge going on still, right? And so for me as a teacher, I just want to do my part, right? In opening their eyes to some things that they can further research themselves, right? So not just telling them things, but teaching them how to research.
Right.
Showing them how to look for information, how to look for the information, how to use multiple credible sources, right? So it goes back to, those old archives, right? Not just what was presented to us later on, more recent.
So the reality is they try to make us think that we are going to suffer. So they always use us to be like, oh, how about feel our pain, worry about what we're worried about. We got enough stuff that we need to be concerned about than to be worried about another community's issues. Yeah. Your issues is not our issues. The fact that your males disrespect you is not our issue. And to be perfectly honest, even if you were to get a undercover abortion in 2024, the amount of equipment that's readily available and knowledge that's readily available, that shit, I could probably do an abortion for somebody. You know what I mean? It's not like the 60s when you use the coat hanger. We have, you can order just about everything that's in a hospital online. You know what I mean? So, why in the world are you, it should be we got serious things to be concerned with. Nobody can take your right to do whatever you
coming from Jersey, about
really?
Rent. If you coming from a country where the average one bedroom is $2,000 a month, right? So people got a whole lot of other things to be concerned about,
Right. But see, instead of us acting like, ooh, we hurt, massa, that's what we are still doing. We're acting like when Massa hurt, we hurt. Oh, we hurt. Oh, we crying. We can't have abortion, Massey. Oh, we sad. We so sad. We acting like whatever those people are saying is important has to be important to us. When are we gonna realize that we gotta focus on what is important to us? And even if you move to their communities, that don't make you them. That does not make you them. And that doesn't mean that just because you ain't catching hell, you ain't got a cousin that's catching hell. You ain't got a neighbor, a friend, a former friend, a neighbor, a current friend, somebody you daggone encounter every day. Maybe somebody who you go out with, somebody you went to school with, who's catching hell. Maybe your economy is cool, but somebody else's is not, that you know. Okay? Maybe these people have other things that are more important that should concern you. But instead of you worrying about what the media tells you to be concerned with and what these daggone what are they called? These black Klansmen that come on the screen to daggone manipulate us and control us for the sake of the KKK. Instead of worrying about what they try to manipulate us into daggone thinking is important, why don't we do what we know is important? And let me tell you something, being responsible for ourselves and raising young men and young women who value their bodies, who value taking care of it from the front, so you ain't got to worry about it on the back end so much. Why not be proactive? That's what it's supposed to be about. You ain't supposed to be worrying about it at the end point. You're supposed to worry about yourself from the beginning to the end.
Absolutely.
So I mean, that's the thing. So why am I doing that? Oh, maybe it's YouTube. It does that. Make sure. Okay. I don't know what that means.
But anyway, I'm gonna leave now.
Okay. All right, but thank you so much
back to this
for the inspiring quote and commentary that really did the best comments ever. But thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me and for thinking of me. Take care.
I don't know if my mic is. Am I still here? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
So you know what that conversation said to me. You hear this male and female fighting against each other and scratching their eyeballs out. And what's that cat name who was just come on and just dog sisters?
I don't know, the one that died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This just imagine.
Yeah.
How we do each other.
Oh yeah, they got new ones coming up on the internet trying to take his place. This whole divide between us as men and women is a real thing. But see, all these things are financed and promoted, but we keep falling for it, right? I got so many views. I'm making so many silver coins for talking bad about my own women and disrespecting them. Man, this is great. I can work from home. I can work from my car. I can do whatever. I just stay on this app and I degrade my women.
But it goes both ways too.
I mean, exactly. Same thing with these women degrade. What is it doing? It's breaking down everything we are. You killing yourself. You are because you're part your mother and you're part your father. You are what you're destroying. How can you're hating yourself? You cannot help but if you are doing that to others like you are hating yourself. And I can't even tell you what they're doing in the next generation.
You're right about that.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
But yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Who's governing you? But I think it's very important that, like in all things, we got to take over the governing, like she said, of ourselves. but not just the fact that politically, socially, physically, sexually. What the hell? Why is the last frontier? I got a smush more shit. What the hell? Why are you just letting somebody put some stuff inside of you? And everybody's like talking about ard. I'm being ard. All these people being ard by their incesting and arding and having babies. Well, who are all these people? Who? Let me identify this situation. What are the real numbers on this shit? A lot of people that have incest have the babies. They don't even have abortions. So that's some bullshit. Many people who are raped have the babies. They don't have abortions. That's some bullshit as well. So if acting like it's a mandatory thing in case of R word or molestation is not even true. Okay. So, I mean, and like I said, somebody gonna try to make some money giving you one in some way, somehow. And these days, the undercover people that's gonna give some abortions, if that ever becomes a thing, which I doubt it. I doubt whether people are gonna be going in alleyways and going in warehouses and going in daggone storage units and getting abortions. That's not going to happen. But should it ever become that, we're at the best time ever for that to happen, because like I said, the technology is off the charts, the equipment that's available is off the charts, the sterility and the disposable items are off the charts. I mean, it's actually, it's the safest time to ever do something like that if you were in the mindset of that being a thing. So I don't even know. But the reality is, as far as on the scale of all the things that we got to be freaking upset about or be concerned about or be focused on, that ain't one. That ain't one. Not as us as a people, because they use abortion to annihilate us. That's why they put them in our neighborhoods. So us being controlled by some entity who is their major concern is whether we can kill our babies, and us not understanding that when you say I vote for Kamala, I'm voting for you to kill my babies, and that we all should be rejoicing because the fact that Trump won means that that whole ideology did not win. And we have said to the universe, we don't want our babies to be killed. Because all they're trying to do with this shit is not about really voting. You don't really impact anything. They just get your consent. They just get your energy. And everybody should be glad that the energy that they got was, fuck no, we don't want no freaking daggone nobody killing our babies. And we don't want these immigrants taking over our land. That's what we said. He might be a pedophile. He might be a misogynist. He might be, I don't think Trump is a pedophile. He's definitely a misogynist. And he might be a daggone, R word. I don't know if it's an R word. He probably is. But whatever the case, what we were voting, the issues that they said were relevant, that people were all excited about, were abortion, and that is really saying I want to kill babies, and immigration. Those were the real big ones. And really, these things are so far removed from the life of the Indian. I don't understand why we even galvanize on either of those issues, because really neither one is really touching us, except the fact that immigrants are taking up all our benefits and money and resources and even our apartment complexes that we lived in, the housing that we had. So yeah, that's kind of an issue. But the reality is, they're already gonna do what they're gonna do. They just want your consent. They want to see where you're at, because they always got to monitor the Indian, because we're the landlords. They always got to monitor us. It's like remember we talked about the census. Everybody was hopping on. Oh, and Indians, let's get on the census. Oh yeah, get involved, because then they can actually recognize us as the American Indian. They could have a space for us as they're going Accomax or whatever nation you are. Who gives a fuck? You know why? They want you to know how many. They want to know. They want to know, Lisa, how many people you got in your house?
Right.
They want to know. Why do they want to know, y'all? That's what I want. Why do they want to know? Cause damn Lisa got how many? 7 people in her household? What? What? How many? They need to know how many of us are still alive. That's all the census did. Try to keep account of how many so they know who they got to kill. Next thing you know, there's some mandatory booster shots in the schools. Booster shots. New vaccines in the schools. Because you got 12 kids under the age, you got 4 kids, 7, you got 5 kids under the age of 12 in your household. And they got to go. And then you're going to be like, oh, they said they need the booster shot. Oh, the pertussis is a problem. And people is coughing. You know, they tell you anything. Who's that? What was that?
And I hope people are really checking out what you're saying, because that's exactly how it goes. And one more thing on this election: never vote for a woman who has no children. You got to get that. And what that mean? You can't never vote for a woman who has no children, because she don't know what it's like for others. She don't know what it's like to care for others. These are simple things you can see, but we always ignore. So that's it for me, Lisa. That was Karen Coy was cool. I like that, what she said, and how she explained her students and what, the real.
Yeah. How they are today. You know what I mean? It was very, very great. And her quote was extremely great. And it was wonderful to have her give all that insight to us. It was great.
So thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to the chat. And who is governing you? We got to work on that. When she made the mention of us doing mission statements in the family, and we need to take back control of our families. We have to be unified. Thank you, Stars, about the flag. That's Naomi, my daughter, Chiefess. She did that. It's awesome design. Yeah. So we need to do this work and redirecting our families from now into the future. Setting the new standards and redirecting what needs directing, and making sure that the males that we're bringing up respect themselves and respect the female and respect the family. Same with the women. The women need to respect the males, respect themselves, and respect the family. And we need to have love and love amongst each other, appreciation, consideration. All these things we need to bring back. Stop being so daggone competitive. Stop being petty. Stop being hateful. Stop holding grudges. Stop being jealous. Oh, that's horrible. Stop being greedy. We can't go into the future. We cannot reclaim anything. We cannot have full restitution or partial restitution or anything if we don't know how to share, care, and be unified. We have to get that together. You can't throw resources at somebody that's broken. You got to be whole. Being whole in so many ways. Who is governing you? We have to govern ourselves, y'all. We can't let our oppressor govern us. That's it for me.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. Remember, govern yourself. Trump is going to govern you. For real, cuz. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.